Galatians 5, 7 through 9. This is Paul talking to the church in Galatia, and he says, "You ran well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion does not come from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump." In his letter to believers, the church in Galatia, the Apostle Paul warns them. If you go back and read the whole letter, he starts out warning them. Hey, you're off track. You missed something. You were running the race. How could you have run the way you run, and somewhere along the way got hindered? Somewhere along the way got sidetracked from obeying the truth. Now, the people in Galatia, like many churches at that time as they were being founded, a lot of the elders of the church that were around were still Jewish. And just as Paul and Peter and some others were going around to spread the gospel, there were other people going around too. And they believed that the gospel story that they heard was true. They were followers of Christ, is what they would say. However, when they set in a place, what they would do is try to teach the people to go back to Jewish ways. That's what Galatia was dealing with. They were dealing with a doctrine that said the only way that you're going to be saved is to be circumcised as a man. See, they went back to Judaism. They went back to the covenant of the law, not the one of grace. Again, it sounded good because they were talking about Christ. But yet they had to put Moses and the law back in the picture. Doctrine is important. Believing what the word says and knowing what it says is important. If not, a little salt is going to be sprinkled in here and there, but what you're going to find is the salt is bland. The salt is meant to tie something around your neck, a yoke, and put you back into bondage. It's like an obstruction came for the people in Galatia, causing them to be rerouted off of the track that they was on. And I'm going to tell you, obstructions can come in any form, in any fashion, in many ways, through many people. But the principle of it is still the same. It's to challenge what you think in such a way to get you to change what you believe, to change what you know, to challenge what you believe is true. Isn't that what happened with Eve in the garden? That's right. The enemy gave her some truth, sprinkled with a little deceit, just enough to get her off track. Don't you see that happening in Christianity today? I'm not talking about what's going on in the world. I'm talking about what's going on in the church. There's a whole lot of stuff being said. There's a whole lot of people saying Jesus, Jesus. But yet, when you kind of open the book and start reading what they're talking about, what you see doesn't line up with who he is. That's right. But people are buying into it. And I like the way Paul put this. He said a key word here, this persuasion. Persuasion is the process aimed at changing a person or a group's attitude, belief, or behavior toward an event, an idea, an object, or other people, or another person, by using what I call sensory input. Whether it's words, written or spoken, whether it's actions that people are doing, there's input that they're putting out to come in to change the way the information is conveyed, to change feelings, to change reasoning, or a combination of all, to change it all. Persuasion in and of itself isn't a bad thing. However, if the byproduct if the end result of the persuasion is for you to believe in a Christ other than who Jesus is, then something's wrong with it. And that's what happened to the church in Galatia. They were being persuaded to think of faith in a different way. And so Paul writes this letter to them, and he goes back and he reminds them that, look, this isn't the gospel that you were given. And he tells them that in the early part of the letter. This isn't what you were taught. So why are now you taking on something that is more than what was given? He tells them that this new direction, this persuasion, is not coming from Christ. It isn't Jesus, the one who's calling them, the one who is drawing them in. It isn't him that's leading them down this way. Because Jesus is not going to lead you down the wrong path. At all. And they are being misled. They are being redirected from truth. So false teaching, false doctrine has been injected into the church. And so Paul gives them an analogy, something that they can readily understand. He talks about bread. All of them are eating bread. All of us eat bread. Right? And for those who make it, this hits home. You understand this analogy. He tells them that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Today's word will say the whole loaf. So leaven is yeast. Right? We know that. Yeast is a microscopic fungus that multiplies. Right? It makes living enzymes. It multiplies. It duplicates. And it's so light that it causes dough to rise. The interesting thing about yeast, once you add it to dough, is that the living organism that is produced and that expands permeates throughout all the dough. In other words, the dough gets changed. It gets changed. It's no longer what it was. It's now tainted by yeast. People who bake bread will tell you that it only takes a very little bit of yeast, just a teaspoon, that you add to a whole pound of flour, about 4 cups a pound. 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon changes a whole pound. So it only takes a little bit of leaven. It only takes a little bit of false doctrine. It only takes a little bit of misdirecting to get us off course and miss the mark of who Christ is.